What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so Democrats, they haven't learned their lesson. And the corporate press, the mainstream news, they haven't learned their lesson either. They think if they keep pushing these same talking points, they keep pushing this narrative, eventually people will give in and come back to the Democrats. I don't think so, buddy. People are waking up. People are starting to see that these narratives are outright bunk, that these narratives are divorced from reality. Nobody believes you anymore, my guy. I got a clip for you guys I'm going to show right quick. And then we're going to get into a little bit of evidence-based analysis. That we're going to go over this to prove my point here that Democrats haven't learned their freaking lesson.
Kashyap Patel is the kind of person who Donald Trump does not want to be a citizen of the United States. Kashyap Patel was born in the United States 44 years ago to immigrant parents. The kinds of people who Donald Trump says have poisoned the blood of America. But today, because of his unyielding personal loyalty to Donald Trump and possibly Donald Trump's gratitude for him committing crimes for Donald Trump, which were explored in his confirmation hearing today, Kashyap Patel faced questions in the Senate Judiciary Committee as Donald Trump's choice to be the director of the FBI. He has made history as a nominee for that job in more ways than one.
Mr. Patel may be, I don't know, but he may be the first nominee for FBI director in history who felt it necessary to plead the fifth, to say that he wouldn't testify to a grand jury because it might incriminate him. Maybe the first nominee for FBI director ever to feel the necessity of pleading the fifth.
That's right. He is the first nominee in history to plead the Fifth Amendment as a nominee for director of the FBI because he believed his testimony to a grand jury could incriminate him in the commission of crimes with and for Donald Trump. The grand jury was investigating Donald Trump's illegal possession of classified documents.
Okay, so there's so much to break down with that, right, bro? Right from the jump, he says that Kash Patel is the type of person that Donald Trump does not want in this country. That is evident by Donald Trump choosing Kash Patel to run the FBI. Like, if you really can't put 2 and 6 together to get 8, you don't deserve to be in front of a camera in an MSNBC studio, right? That is, like, he debunks himself. Donald Trump chose, right? His parents are the people that Donald Trump says is poisoning the blood of this country. Then please, Lawrence O'Donnell, please explain to me why Donald Trump chose Kash Patel to be the director of the FBI. Like, can you put some common sense with this? Some sort of rational thought process, some logic, please. That's what I would like here. Logic. Something. But that's not it. Like I said, there's a lot to break down here, right? He debunks himself in this entire thing. This is totally absurd by saying, oh, Kash Patel is the type of person that Donald Trump doesn't want in the country. These people, they just lost their minds. I don't know what reality that they think that they can put out this narrative, that they can speak to people in such a manner and put these just blatant falsehoods out and think people are going to buy into it. Think people are just going to suck this right up and not think about this like average everyday Joes, nonpartisan type of people, centrists, the type of people the Democrat Party needs to win back, as a matter of fact, if they want to get any sort of power again, if they want their democracy back, right? You've got to be able to speak to people and connect with people. You got to be able to meet them where they're at, if you will. You've got to make sense. You've got to be rational. You've got to be logical, if you will. But that's what none of that rant was any of those things at all. Because, like, I know it's widely thought that the Fifth Amendment is because you don't want to incriminate yourself. Well, that's not only what it's for. But you know what? They say this with so much certainty that he did not want to incriminate himself. Therefore, he must have committed a crime. They don't put any sort of thought process, right? Because they don't want to. They don't care. They're just putting out this narrative. He's the only one in history to ever plead the Fifth to a grand jury, for crying out loud. Now, if I was Kash Patel, I would not want to cooperate with a grand jury over the classified documents case for Donald Trump because it's so ridiculous, right? They were asking questions like, did you see Donald Trump declassify any documents? It's kind of ridiculous. Now, how could Kash Patel be incriminated by this, you say? I have no idea, but that doesn't matter because I'm not here speculating at all. Not here speculating. He has said before, though, in a podcast, look, you plead the fifth. It's not just because you don't want to incriminate yourself. That's not the only reason why you plead the fifth. The Fourth Amendment, illegal searches and shit, you don't have to cooperate with the government investigation. And that's what a grand jury pretty much is. They're bringing all their evidence of their investigation to a grand jury to see if that grand jury will indict. That's the very last step in an investigation before the charges are brought, right? So you don't have to cooperate at all with any investigation by law enforcement. Did you know that? Now, how would you get out from underneath cooperating if you're called to a grand jury to testify against somebody? You plead the fifth. I am unwilling to cooperate with your investigation. Yes, the Fifth Amendment is definitely not predicated upon the fact that you committed a crime and you don't want to speak that crime. It's not. As a matter of fact, if you just want to obstruct the grand jury, you can say, I plead the fifth. And they just take it as, see what I mean about this? These people, they're just trying to push a narrative. But once you take a magnifying glass to that narrative, it breaks apart. It has so many holes in it. It's like, those cars you see with the graphics all on the side of it that cover up windows. Well, hang on, that's illegal. You can't do that. You know how they get around that, huh? By putting tiny holes in it. Once you're inside that vehicle, I'm sure you guys know this, you can see fine outside. It might be a little bit obstructive, but not much. That's what their narrative is. It's got giant holes all in it. That once you get on the inside, you see right through it. It's absurd. But let's get to the news article right quick. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if I was going to get to this because there's so much to break down here, but we're only running, a few minutes, and I'm not trying to go on with that forever because it's absurd too. Let's check this out. We've got a new poll that spells bad news for Democrats. As a matter of fact, check this out, y'all. Democrats will struggle to recover from record unpopularity. Oh, this is great. It's a tough time for Democrats. After defeating Donald Trump 4 years ago, the party struggled to effectively navigate through the U.S. through the fallout from the pandemic and watched as Americans turned against them on issue after issue. Joe Biden became too frail and too unpopular to run again, and his refusal to drop out early saddled Democrats with another unpopular candidate in Kamala Harris. This isn't some right-wing news. Once again, y'all, I don't cover right-wing news hardly ever unless it's a news story I want to cover and no left-wing sources are covering it. Which is not often, by the way. It's not that often. I do it, but I always give out a content warning, if you will, before I start. All this ultimately resulted in the return of Trump, who has already taken a battering ram to many projects and policies that Democrats hold dear. Oh yeah, you gotta love it. But the pain didn't stop in November. This week has produced fresh evidence of just how far the party has fallen. A new Quinnipiac poll has found that the Democrats' favorability rating among the public sits at 31%, its lowest since the firm began tracking that question back in 2008. Meanwhile, 57% hold an unfavorable view. This isn't just due to general dissatisfaction among voters. On the other side, Republicans essentially break even with 43% of the public viewing them favorably, a historic high in this poll, versus 45% unfavorably. It's not just Quinnipiac either. A CNN survey from this month showed that nearly one-third, 32%, of Democratic-leaning adults said the political events of the past few years have made them feel like they've been pushed away from the party, compared to 23% who said they feel closer to it. Yeah, this is the small fringe minority of far leftists who actually drive the Democratic Party. Yeah, that's why, buddy. And everybody else, all the normal people, all the normal Democrats are like, holy crap, what's going on? It feels, these people, I imagine, they feel like they got the rug pulled out from underneath them. They just got blindsided. They were walking across the street, and one of those electric trucks just barreled out of nowhere and just ran them right over. They did not see any of this coming for some reason, even though that far fringe minority wing of their party has been going in this direction for a very, very long time. It's just that the mainstream news and social media has gotten so popular and has blanket just covered everything. A lot of people think that that fringe minority is the entirety of the Democratic Party. As a matter of fact, we get out there and talk about it a lot. That's usually when I'm discussing Democrats, it's politicians or the fringe left. You'll hear me say a lot, Democrats and the left. I'm talking about that fringe minority when I say those things, by the way. For the Democrats to dig themselves out of this hole, they will need to honestly address how they got there. Party leaders must first reckon how, over the past 2 decades, they came to believe in the idea of an emerging Democratic majority, a coalition of racial minorities, women, young people, and the professional class that would deliver them sustained electoral success as many of these groups grew in size. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer once even uttered, "For every blue-collar Democrat we lose in western Pennsylvania, we will pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs in Philadelphia, and you can repeat that in Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin." Yeah, right. Yet, this was ill-fated in multiple ways. Working-class, non-college educated voters make up 57% of the electorate, giving them substantial influence. The emerging majority thesis, rooted in an identitarian understanding of the country, also viewed many of these groups as essentially monolithic, and the party apparently convinced themselves that each section of support was unconditional. But as the Trump era has shown, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, some of the party's largest losses between 2020 and 2024 came from these exact groups. This is something we've been talking about for a while. Normal people just are done. They're tired of this nonsense. That's it. Additionally, as the Democratic base has shifted from being more moderate and working class to being better educated and wealthier and more liberal, it has trended away from the median American voter. Now, see, that's a quick insinuation that Republicans and average everyday Americans are stupid. That's what that insinuates. To being better educated. And just because you go to college doesn't mean you're better educated, right? Well, okay, I'll take that back. You have more education. Doesn't mean you're better educated. And it also does not identify intelligence, right? Just because you go to college doesn't mean you're smart, by the way. It's crazy, y'all. Gotta love these liberals over here. A post-election study from the group Third Way found that voters placed themselves slightly right of center on an ideological scale, closer to Trump than to Harris. That's not closer to Trump. Trump is a moderate. Trump is not far right. Trump used to be a Democrat, by the way, in case you guys forgot that. Oh, he's only been far right-wing since he became a Republican. When he was a Democrat, he was on the left. No, he's always been a moderate. A lot of these people, they've always been centrist. Most of America is centrist, right? And most of America isn't center-right. They're actually center-left. But the left has shifted the Overton window so far that now, compared to everything else, if you keep the same metrics, in other words, the same percentages, sure, these people lean more right because the party has expanded so far left. They've gone to insane territory. So now, if you're way over here in the fringe far left, everything looks right-wing to you, right? Well, naturally, huh? But even if you're centrist from that, you're still well into the left. These people view you as right wing. But you're more centrist, left leaning. But even that is still far left by 10 years ago, a decade ago standards. That's far left. So they've shifted that window a lot this past decade, but it's been shifting for a while. It's been shifting for like 30, 40 years at this point. It was slow, but it's been kind of like the expansion of the universe. It's accelerating, or it was accelerating. At this point, now with Trump's massive win, and we see this just complete shift to the right. I've shown that map several times, right? Just pretty much every county shifted right. There's only a couple of counties, just randomly, just a few, not many, that actually shifted left. There's not many at all. The vast majority of the country, I think like 98% of the country, shifted right this election. That's absurd. That's insane. We've never seen such a massive shift. The fact that Donald Trump could go from who he was, right? 34 criminal counts, 34 felonies. You got all these other indictments, 94 indictments in all. Could go from that, right? Getting a mug shot down in Georgia and all that. Go from that to winning the popular vote in the 2024 election. Just goes to show the Democrats have lost the plot. They've lost everything. And the narrative isn't working. And they're absolutely not learning their lessons. They're not trying to moderate. They're still pushing the same narrative. Trump evil, Trump bad. You're racist if you support illegal immigration, even though, deportation of illegal immigrants, even though 70% of the country. They're still pushing that narrative. You're a bigot and a racist. Has nothing to do with race. They don't care. They'll still call you a racist regardless. It's absurd, y'all. This perfectly captures the party's predicament. Its base is moving further leftward, even as the country remains steadfastly center-right. Once again, I just broke all that down. I'm not going to break that down again. Many Americans also believe the Democrats cared less about core issues such as the economy and immigration, and more about the ones which motivated their base, such as abortion and LGBT rights. Oh, hang on there just a second. What happened to the Q+? QIA+? I mean, where did it go? Somebody please. Pre-election polling showed that Democratic voters valued social issues over the economy, perhaps indicative of why the likes of abortion and democracy protection were front and center of Harris's campaign. Another key factor in Democrats' recent struggles was their inability to govern competently. Though Biden promised to steady the ship after Trump, his own first-term agenda ended up setting in motion a series of events that brought his rival back, including an inflationary stimulus package and misguided immigration reforms, both of which swing voters cited as reasons for not supporting Harris in the election. Once again, this is just scathing for Democrats, y'all. Just outright scathing for Democrats. This is left-wing news. This is not centrist news, which there really isn't much centrist news. But this is left-wing news. It's not right-wing news. That's scathing coming from the left. Worse still, the party's difficulty in dealing with crime and the cost of living in deep blue states has provoked an exodus toward red states, while those who have remained have begun swinging rightward. Some of Trump's biggest gains between 2020 and 2024 came in historically Democratic strongholds such as New York plus 10.6 points, New Jersey plus 10, California plus 9.1, and Massachusetts plus 8.3. So, where do the Democrats go from here? Some have argued that all they need to do is sit tight, let Trump overreach, and then enjoy the benefits of normal political gravity, which will deliver victories in special elections and the midterms. This worked during Trump's first term. so why not again? There is some logic to this, at least in the short term, as Democratic voters turn out at higher rates in off-year elections than Republicans. Yeah, but what they're not counting on is Trump's actions being so popular, right? His popularity right now is higher than it's ever been. So good luck, y'all. But the party's problems run deeper. The Democrats' brand is underwater, and they must find a way to win back the working class Americans lost to Trump, move toward the median voters' values, and demonstrate to the public that their states are better run and more desirable than Republican ones. Why didn't you say Republican states? I can't stand people that say, oh, we need these ones over here instead of those ones. I can't stand one. I know that's an odd pet peeve when people say, I want these ones instead of those ones. Like, it makes them just sound ridiculous. And this, like, for such an intellectual analysis, right, it's a pretty good analysis, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, they get some of the stuff wrong. You could tell they're biased to the left. But it's a decent analysis on what's going on inside the Democratic Party. Why couldn't they just say more desirable than Republican states? Just ridiculous. I'm sorry for that, y'all. That's just one of my pet peeves. If not, they may find themselves sitting at home in November 2028 wondering why America rejected them once again. That is right. That is totally right. If they keep pushing these narratives, they keep saying, oh, Trump's evil, Trump orange man, Trump bad, deporting immigrants. Oh my God, they're deporting immigrants over here. No, they're deporting criminal aliens. Let's get back to calling them what they are. They broke the law to come into this country illegally. We should have no problems deporting any of these people, especially the criminals. They're even griping about deporting criminals, not just criminal aliens. Talking about criminal aliens that have come into this country and further broken the law by committing violence, theft, robbery, you name it, larceny even, which is kind of the same thing. But, they even gripe about that. It's absurd. You keep pushing these narratives, these ideas that are unpopular with everybody, right? People, 70% of the country is just down with mass deportations. As poll after poll after poll has said this. People like the truth. We don't need to be coddled. We don't need to be lied to. You can tell us the truth, even if the truth hurts. But they just want to lie to you. They just want to give you this blanket narrative and say, here you go, regardless if it makes sense or not. That's what we can't stand. We've been lied to for so long. We don't have any trust in our federal government. We don't have any trust in the corporate media these days at all. No trust in any of these institutions. And they wonder why. CNN is failing. MSNBC is failing. The entirety of the mainstream narrative machine is failing right now. And they can't seem to see why. They can't see it at all. They just don't know why. If they would watch a video like this, maybe, just maybe, they could figure it out. Maybe they would take what I'm saying a little bit seriously. Then I'm not just some far-right conspiracy theorist. Sure, I lean right. I'm not far right. I'm not fully right. I'm a moderate as well. Once again, my position on abortion is it should be unthinkable, not illegal. Because there are certain situations where it's necessary-ish, right? But there's certain situations where the pros outweigh the cons, where the mother's life is more important than the baby's life that hasn't even been born yet, right? There's certain situations where that is the case. It does happen, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be illegal. It should be unthinkable. Elective abortions should not exist at all. That's how I think. But once again, I am also of the opinion that abortion should be a thing because it is necessary in certain cases. You've got the big three exceptions, right? We all know those exceptions. I also think that, everybody should be entitled to some sort of basic health care, right? Like if you break an arm or something like that, or you fall and injure yourself, you know, emergency room visits should be almost free. In other words, they shouldn't charge nearly as much. I think that government assistance on emergency visits should be, you know, dang near free. Maybe some sort of copay or something like that. But you shouldn't have to, if you don't have insurance or something like that, you shouldn't have to pay thousands of dollars for them to set a bone, something that takes a few minutes, right? Go to a doctor because you have a cold and you get a quick prescription. That should be cheap. Shouldn't have to pay for those things, right? That should be covered. We have enough wealth in this country to cover stuff like that. That's what I believe. That's not a far-right position, right? I love immigration, right? The legal immigration. I'm all for it. Expanding immigration. I'm for expanding immigration. That's not a far-right position. I'm sorry. But these people, they keep running with these narratives that they're unpopular as hell. And it's very apparent these days. But I've been rambling on for way too long. I just realized how long I've been talking, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. That's all I got on this one, y'all. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.